and I together walking hand in hand. Genesis to Revelation, building a heavenly band. No gimmicks, no control, no power over mind. Just searching to see what each of us could find. Beginning to ending, no skipping, no bending. Precept upon precept, line upon line. Here a little, there a little, then everything combined. Come on, let's go. It's time. Hello and welcome to Matchless Love. Today we continue our Bible through adventure as we look at Genesis chapter 5. He is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. As we look at verse 1 to 3, we see that God created man in his own likeness, but after sin, man lost a part of that, and now Adam and Eve had children in their own likeness and their own image. Adam and Eve, they were created sinless, but their children were created in their image, a sinful image. Let's look at Genesis 4, verse 26. Genesis 4, verse 26 says, "And to Seth, to him also there was born a son, and he called his name Enos. Then began men to call upon the name of the Lord." So, yes, Adam and Eve were created sinless, but their children were created in their image, which was a sinful image. Yet Seth served God as Abel did. He turned the minds of the people to God, and his son Enos followed in the same path. Through Cain's lineage, we see contempt and disobedience, but through Seth's, we see loyalty and godliness. As we continue reading, we saw that men lived much longer in those days, to over 900 years old, but no one ever lived to 1,000 years. Sin has cut us off from eternity, but we have declined even more so now, from about 900 to about 70, with just a few getting close to 100 or over. With each sinful day, our lives have declined more and more. Now let's look at Amos 3:3, and then we look at Matthew 5:8. So Amos 3:3 says, "Can two walk together except they be agreed?" And then Matthew 5 verse 8 says, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." So as we look at verse 24 of chapter 5, we saw that it says Enoch walked with God and God took him. And as we saw in Amos 3:3, God asks us, can two beings walk together except they agree? So Enoch walked with God meant his walk was in harmony with God's will. In turn, Enoch never tasted death. So will it be when Jesus comes the second time. Those that are still alive in Christ will not taste of death, but will be translated. And then Matthew 5:8 tells us, "Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God." So we have hope that if we walk with God, do his will, and keep our hearts pure from sin, then we will see God like Enoch did. Enoch's life was an example to all that they can live a godly life even in a world full of corruption and ungodliness. His translation was a witness to all that God will keep his promise. Though it may seem like death is the reward for both the godly and the ungodly, now there is the promise that we who live a godly life will see him and will inherit the kingdom. Let's now look at Hebrews 11 verse 6. Hebrews 11 verse 6 says, "But without faith it is impossible to please God. For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." So it's telling us God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Enoch's translation was an encouragement for the godly to continue walking in their ways, and a motivation for the ungodly to change their ways, because God is a rewarder of those who diligently seek him. Now, in Hebrews 11, back up to verse 5, we see it says, "By faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God had translated him. For before his translation he had this testimony that he pleased God." Then 1 Corinthians 15, verse 51 and 52 says, "Behold, I show you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed." Then 1 Thessalonians 4:16 through 18 says, "For the Lord himself shall descend from heaven with a shout, with the voice of the archangel, and with the trump of God. And the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds, to meet the Lord in the air. And so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore, comfort one another with these words." So, as we see in 11:5, by faith Enoch was translated that he should not see death, and was not found, because God took him. For before his translation he had this testimony that he pleased God. Then in 1 Corinthians we see that we will not all die. Some of us will still be alive when Jesus comes again, but we, the godly, along with the raised dead, those who died in Christ, will change from mortal to immortal, or Christ will put on immortality upon us. And in Thessalonians, it reminds us he will return and take us to heaven. And this is our comfort in this world. When we look in this world, sometimes we see all the sin, all the trials. There's so much that we go through in this world. But God has sent these words to comfort us, knowing that this is not the end. When we die, that is not the end. He will come again, and things will change, things will get better. As we continue on, we see that through the lineage of Seth came the great grandson of Enoch, who was called Noah. Right? He was called Noah because it was said that he would comfort the people concerning their work and toil because of the cursed ground. And Noah had 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Now, in the following chapters, we will learn a lot more about Noah and his 3 sons. So stay tuned for that. I thank God that though we have to live in this sinful world and endure hardship, sickness, suffering, and death, that this is not the end. When Jesus comes again, we will all be changed from mortal, and Christ will put on immortality upon us. That means no more death, and there will be no more suffering and pain either. Let us just remember to walk with him so that we can make it through. And remember, we don't just worship and give him praise through our mouths, but through our actions, the way we live our lives daily. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. Join me next time as we look at Genesis chapter 6, "The actions of man grieved God." Remember to read the chapter and watch and listen to it here on Matchless Love before continuing. May God richly bless you. See you next time.